Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of All Caps. I'm Isaac Anderson, author of A Song of Bones in the Garden Maze, and I'm joined by Corbin Rook, the
How's
author
it going,
of
Isaac?
Shadows of the Sundered Lands. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. By the way, I saw the Amaze in the bottom left-hand corner. Hail
Mm-hmm,
Mary,
mm-hmm.
awesome book, awesome movie. So had to show that I appreciated that.
That movie made me so happy. That made me
Yes.
so happy. That was such a wonderful, wonderful book. Wonderful movie, wonderful book. I can't wait to see what that guy does next. What's his name? His name
hmm
is
Andy Weir.
Andy Weir. I
hmm
want to know because he's mentioned he has ideas for a sequel to
hmm
Hail Mary, which I if I were to make a prediction, I would say that there are other aliens
hmm
also trying to solve the problem. And I think he kind of caught the bug for designing alien biology. I've seen some of
Right,
his other
right.
little videos talking about how in depth he did. So I wonder if his next story, whether it's Hail Mary or something else, I wonder if he dives into multiple different alien species
Mm,
working
that
together
would
in
be
this.
cool. That would be cool.
Because I want to see him do more alien stuff.
The way he did Rocky, I thought was fascinating. In the way that Rocky just processes information differently and just the differences in culture and how they learn to communicate. Like it could have been a never-ending book of just
Oh,
them figuring out how to talk, and I would have been completely enthralled. It was awesome.
yeah, yeah. They did a lot of cool things in that story.
hmm
But let's talk about your story. This is your debut hopeful dark fantasy novel.
Yes.
So, what is hopeful dark? What do you mean when you say hopeful dark?
Yeah, so, to be honest with you, when I was starting out, I mean, the idea of this book is kind of dark to begin with, where it's post-apocalyptic, darkness has descended on the land, everything's being transformed into monsters. There's these protected communities where if you are underneath this shroud, you're safe, but once you journey out into the Sundered Lands, that transformation process starts. And so I knew I wanted it to be a dark story.
Right.
And for example, one of the main characters, she has cerebral palsy and she's in this vastly overpopulated city. And because they can't expand beyond the barriers of this shroud, it's just resources are getting thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. And there's not enough to go around. And they're considering, like, do we just kill anybody that's slowing us down?
Mm,
And so it's very dark. And so originally I was thinking this is going to be a grim, dark story. It's going to be some horror elements in here. And then just as I was writing it, I was not enjoying that. So
hmm
I come from a worldview of hope. And what I realized what I wanted to do is a lot of the very hopeful stories that are out there are very cheesy, or
hmm
they kind of skirt around how dark the world can be. I was like, what I want to do is I call it hope punk, where it's like acknowledging how dark things can be while still having that shining light in
Yeah.
there. And so that's what I tried to do. And it seems like that's connected with a lot of readers. If you look at a lot of the reviews, people are saying is like, this is such as dark as it can be. This is such a hopeful story. I was so inspired. And that was absolutely my goal going into this. And so I was very honored to see people connecting with it in that way.
Kind of connecting that back to Hail Mary, that's kind
hmm
of why people are connecting with that story as well.
Right.
You have a very, very dark situation. You have this
hmm
guy alone in space. He's resolved to die to solve the
hmm
problem by himself. But at the same time, you have all this fun, charming hope throughout the
Right.
entire thing. So it
Right.
never quite feels dark. You feel sad at times, but you never feel
hmm
depressed, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah, and there's those moments where Andy Weir will let you pause and be like, "Hey, just remember how bleak this situation actually is for a moment." And you're like, "Oh my gosh, like this is horrible." And then he sprinkles in the rest of the stuff, and you leave the story. I don't want to spoil anything. I know the
Yeah.
movie just came out too, so I don't want to spoil anything, but you leave that story wanting to be a better person. As dark as things get in this story, and when they're talking about we're going to start running out of resources, the
hmm
world is not going to cooperate, It's going to result in a world war. Half the population's going to die. All this is like this horribly dark stuff. But then you finish the story and you want to be a better person. And so that was kind of my goal with these books that I'm working on, is that it can acknowledge how dark stuff can be, but you leave feeling inspired and wanting to be that best version of
Yeah.
your.
I think what some stories that try to have, you mentioned other stories are a little bit cheesy, they try to be hopeful too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think a key thing that those stories miss is just a charm. They
Mm-hmm.
they have a charming quality that you're never quite cheesy if you're also charming.
Sure. Right.
I've
Right.
found, and that's kind of like, I mean, I use those words without describing what they mean. I don't think I can describe what charming means at a
Mm-hmm.
technical level, but I don't know. You you need that sparkle
Right.
with the cheese.
Mm-hmm. If you don't have that charm, it goes into, I think, like toxic positivity,
Mm,
where it's like we're just going to be happy for the sake of being happy, and everybody's nice, and we're just going to get along, and let's go skip down the street together. And like there's a time and a place. If anyone's watching this and they're like, yeah, I love that, I'm like, that's awesome, that's
yeah.
great for you. But there have been times where I've been down in the dumps and in a rut, and I see a story like that, or I hear a song that's like that, and for me it's like almost offensive in the moment, because like it's
Hmm.
not acknowledging all this horrible stuff that's going on. And so what I have found helps me is something that connects in that moment of like, hey, things can get really bad, and there's always hope.
Yeah.
So that was, yeah, that's kind of my basic worldview. And as I was writing it, I just found I couldn't enjoy writing something that didn't incorporate that worldview, if that makes sense.
Yeah. In my stuff, I almost all of my projects begin as comedies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a funny idea. These are funny characters. And by the second draft, it's always a thriller.
Oh.
Um, I don't know why. That's naturally how it goes with my stuff. So kind of how you were saying, you started with, you wanted to do something that was grim dark, but
Mm-hmm.
your soul wanted to go this way with the story.
Right.
Since writing this, would you ever try to do a truly grimdark thing? What drew you to grimdark in the first place?
I've always just kind of been fascinated by darker stories. Not There are
Yeah.
certain elements where even I want to stay away from. I like
Mm,
violent as a dad, like violence against kids is something that's just like I just can't enjoy stories that go into that point. But I liked the idea of just kind of like a dark, kind of twisted world, really weird monsters out there, a little violent, and just like characters that are very morally gray. And just as I was writing it, I was like, I just don't, it's just not clicking with me, just not
yeah.
feeling it. And I made that pivot to so the main character, his name is Cam, and he is somebody who, because of his upbringing and just the nature of the world, struggles with pretty severe anxiety,
Right.
and has anxiety attacks. And I really wanted to explore what would a healing journey look like for him in the midst of all of this. And once I kind of got that thread, I felt like things really started to click.
Right. Gotcha. So what made you decide to do fantasy? We were always attracted to fantasy. I mean,
Hmm.
did you have, for me, I had several, I had a sci-fi thing, I had a fantasy thing. I had to
Hmm.
decide which one to focus on. So what
Yeah,
made you
I
decide
I
on this one?
love yeah, I love fantasy books. I've always wanted to do fantasy books. I've written some as a kid, wrote a full-length one as a teenager. The only other genre that I've considered and ever attempted is like FBI thrillers.
Oh,
I enjoy those as well. Where I really struggled is I realized as like a late teen, I was like, everything that has ever educated me about the FBI is books and TV. And
yeah.
all I knew to do was regurgitate books and TV. And I found fantasy is so much more fun because while you will research real world elements, you also get to just make it up. And
Yeah.
um Yeah, no one's going to be like, oh, actually, that the FBI would never handle this situation that way, and that's just on TV shows, and you get to really lean into your own creativity.
On Twitter, I saw someone made a post about their the best writing advice they've ever gotten, and it was never use numbers because people can check up on your numbers. Say, how far away was the planet? Really far.
Mm-hmm.
How big was the ship? Pretty small. How tall was the tree?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was farther than I could throw a ball.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. Um, when I was deciding what to do, I had my sci-fi idea and I had my fantasy idea.
Mm-hmm.
Sci-fi was intimidating because I had to figure out, numbers. And
Right.
fantasy was like, I can just make things up.
Right.
And then I could do like a Redwall thing where it's all animal characters. Then I could just
Mm-hmm.
make things up completely, which I kind of shot myself in the foot a little bit because they couldn't talk like people and I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But choosing fantasy, I'm not I don't think it's easier than the other thing. I think is you have different harder things.
Right. Right. I
That's
found
what I
it more
found.
fun, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes.
Yeah, Mike Cahoon, got to go with the flow. Anybody that is watching this, check out Mike's book, The Scion Conspiracy. I'm reading it right now. It's great. So shout out to Mike.
Scion. He was
Yeah.
on last week's show and he was a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic guest.
Yeah, he's a
One of
good
the
guy.
questions that got a lot of traction when I made a short of it, I asked him how he felt. Does the advent of AI worry you as an author? So, do you have a take on that? Are you worried with all this
Mm-hmm.
AI stuff? Are you not worried? Like, where do you think that's heading?
So for me, I'm a little bit torn. I
Hmm.
saw an article a few weeks ago, and I mentioned it on another show I was on, where somebody was bragging about writing 8 books a day and putting them out and just self-publishing them and putting them on KDP, and every single one was only getting a few page reads, but he was starting to rake in a lot of money that way.
Mm,
And as a guy that it took years to write one book, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm already a drop in the ocean, and now I feel like
yeah.
I'm a molecule in the ocean. But where I feel a little bit better is what I've noticed is people that use AI for things get the same very bland tone. One, it's kind of starting to become easier to tell when someone's writing with an AI versus their own
Oh
voice
yeah.
because so many
I can
people are
I can
starting to
spot
use
the
it.
AI tweets really easy now.
Right. It's very, very easy. And it's not just, oh, M dashes. Like, no, there's sentence structure, there's words that you can tell.
The
And what I've
cadence, the
right,
cadence of the sentences.
right. And so let me give you I don't know if you're big into chess. I love chess. So a chess history lesson. In the late 1900s, the best chess player in the world faced off against a computer that they called Deep Blue, and
Mm,
Deep Blue beat him. It was the first time a chess AI beat the sitting reigning champion of chess. And there was all of this like, oh my gosh, computers are coming for us, and AI is going to take over, and it never did because people still loved the human element in all of these
hmm
stories, even in spite of human failures. And the other day, I was telling my wife, AI is never going to take over literature. And I used the chess story. I said, I was playing a guy in chess online and I made a purposely bad move because I could tell he was playing according to a certain theory. And I was like, if I make this bad move, it's going to mess up his game plan. And an AI would have said, oh, he's messed up, and he would have known why I messed up and exploited it.
hmm
But this guy didn't know how to pivot, and I ended up winning the game. It's like there's beauty in the human element of these different things. And so even if an AI could write a perfect book, we as humans, I think, are still going to reject it because it lacks that human soul.
hmm
And so while I do have concerns from like a marketing standpoint, it's going to be harder and harder and harder to stand out when there's
Well,
so many of these being written every single day. I'm not worried in that one. I know once people find my story, they're going to see this has a soul in it,
yeah.
that a human wrote this. And I think people are going to reject those AI generated stories very, very quickly too. That may be
Yeah.
a long answer to your question, but
No, that's great. That's fine. I think marketing, I think, is the answer. I think
mm-hmm,
it's just you got to drop $5,000,
mm-hmm,
and you want to do that when you're ready, when you have your trilogy out and your three standalones, and your next
right,
trilogy is starting. Like you've made a couple sales. Okay, now it's time to drop a marketing nuke. Like
mm-hmm,
spend like half a year getting everything ready, and then drop the
mm-hmm,
nuke.
right, right,
And you may not you'll get a big splash, you get a bunch of sales, but the goal of that splash is to keep people.
right,
So it's just to get eyes and to make friends, basically.
mm-hmm,
So AI does that just by sheer numbers and will. And
mm-hmm,
people, I don't think, are following up the AI author. Like, oh, my AI man has another book out. I got to read that
right,
book. They're not really. It's kind of like I don't know, they're casting a very very wide net very quickly.
right,
I would like. I hear a lot of people saying this guy's releasing 5 AI books a day. I'd like to actually find out what those books actually are and read them, and get
right,
a real real
right,
review on them. How are these AI books actually shaping up? Like do some research.
right.
Um,
I also feel like if you're using AI to write these books, you're, I mean, that's a very lazy way to write a story.
mhm.
And if you're wanting to put things out there into the universe, there's just a lot easier ways, even easier ways to leverage AI to get something
Yeah.
out there to make money than putting out books. And so I think, we're seeing a boom right now because all these people are like, oh, I've got my idea. I've never been able to write it, but now AI is here. And so
Mhm.
their ideas are out there. And I think, that'll scratch the itch and a lot of these people will move on.
Yeah.
And yeah, and anybody that's trying to use AI to get rich, there's just much better ways out there than the
I
world of
think
books.
get rich quick schemes kind of they flare up and they pepper out.
Right,
So right now we're in the AI book get rich quick
right.
flood. I still think we're gonna get people who aren't good writers that always want
Hmm.
to have their story. They'll use AI to make their story. And good
Hmm.
for them. They have their story. They can finally read it. They can share it with their friends. But I mean, they're
Yeah,
not in it to be an author. They're in it to get
right.
make their book they wanted to make.
Right. Where I struggle, if somebody has an idea but is a terrible writer, and they use AI to write their book, and then they're like, "Hey, friends, here's my book. You can read my book. I used AI to write it, but now my idea is a book." Like that's one issue.
Yeah.
But literally claiming ownership and I wrote this and then trying to make money off of it is like not even an ethically gray issue. Like that's just flat out wrong, you know? Like I just really struggle with that.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're going to get a wide spectrum of AI
Hmm.
book writers. You're going to get the
Hmm.
really sleazy people, and you're going
Right.
to get the person who embarrassingly wrote his little dream story that he has,
Hmm.
and you're going to get all kinds of people. But
Right.
moving on from the AI stuff, so this is your first book, and you have
Hmm.
another book coming this year.
Yes.
What is that
Yes.
book?
So that book is called Symphony of Scars, and I call it a sidequel to this
Mm,
story. So in Shadows of the Sundered Lands, it's all happening within one nation. So the actual corruption in the Sundered Lands is only impacting that one nation and the people that are trapped inside of it, but the rest of the world is living fine. And
mm.
so Symphony of Scars shows what's happening with the rest of the world, largely during the events of Shadows of the Sundered Lands.
Is it kind of like a 28 days later situation?
What? I actually haven't checked out 28 Days Later, so I can't speak
Okay.
to it. I compare it to Vantage Point, except with books, where
Okay.
like Shadows of the Sunderland, or think about it this way: if you're reading a story about World War II, there's stuff happening on the Pacific at the same time stuff is happening in Europe, and so what Shadows of the Sunderlands is happening over here, and then there's Symphony of Scars happening over here.
Hmm.
And it's a story. The world has moved on since this nation has been just magically cut off. They've moved on. There's new global superpowers, and there's a group of people that figured out how to tap into magic through music specifically. And so it has a music theory based magic system. And because this culture just really loves and worships music, um, everything is music for them. Like as they go down the streets, the cobblestones are shaped in such a way that the wheel hits it and makes songs. And there's like holes built in spires of towers so that as the wind blows, it makes music.
Mm.
And their highest form of punishment is to take somebody's ears and their tongue so that they can't enjoy or create music with their mouth.
Wow.
And so these people are called the scorned and are basically slaves in this society. And so the prologue of this book in the first chapter, it's at the end of Shadows of the Sundered Lands, just as a teaser. But the prologue happens from the perspective of one of these scorned people. And then chapter one, the main character of the story is this young woman named Leah, who's just turned 21. And she is on her way to be tested to see if she has this ability to tap into music or magic through music. And so that's called symphonics in this
Mm.
world. And so she's on her way to be tested, and that's about all I can say without giving any spoilers. But yeah, I feel like I put a lot of my soul into this book. There's some spots with shadows where I'm like, I don't want to say I played it safer, but uh, with Symphony of Scars, just a lot of my soul is in there.
Right.
If that
Interesting.
makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it sounds like you've done quite a bit of world building. So
Yes.
how much time did you spend world building compared to jumping into the story, or did you
Yeah,
do it in tandem?
Yep. So originally, I had a notebook and spent maybe just I don't want. I'm not sure how long it was because it was over multiple sessions. A lot of it was just as an idea struck me. But I had the second version of Shadows of the Sundered Lands done, and
Hmm.
my wife read it, and she said the story's good. We need to flesh the world out more. And so we actually made a date. So the kids went to bed, and we set a timer for 2 hours.
Wow.
And we're like, for the next 2 hours, we're fleshing this out. And so she was writing down ideas, I was writing down ideas, and then we were sharing those ideas, building on that. And then I took the output of that and then worked it into the third draft. And some of the stuff, it was a cool idea, but it just didn't work in the story. Some stuff was too forced. And then other stuff, I felt like this just took it to a whole new level.
Hmm.
And really a lot of the world building details just came from conversations with my wife. The whole music based system. We were on a walk and we were talking about the Stormlight Archive and the Parshendi warriors. Who use they speak in rhythms and use music to communicate. And she said, like, I feel like it'd be cool if there was a music based magic system. And we just started talking. And before the walk was even done, it was like the whole book was outlined. And
Nice. Very
yeah,
cool.
it was awesome. It was awesome.
So, what advice would you give to somebody if they're having trouble world building? This sounds like you really hash things out.
hmm I would say one, marry well. That's
Hmm. Hmm.
that's one thing that I learned is marry well. That'll help you. But if you're really stuck with world building, one thing that you can do is research other cultures and try to figure out what elements of this culture could make sense in the world that I'm trying to build. So, for example, in Symphony of Scars, I saw James Islington do the Roman Empire thing, and so with Will of the Many, and
Okay.
so I kind of combined kind of classic medieval world with Roman Empire, and the structure of the government was kind of like the Roman Republic with senators, higher senators and lower senators, uh, and and I did my own spin on it too. It's not like a direct copy paste,
Hmm.
but you can take those inspirations from the real world and then twist it and create something unique. Or you could just pick something random in the real world and expand it. So like I was doing a world building thing with a buddy and he picked telephone poles. And I was like, okay, so what if the entire world is made of these like long strands of like logs that go from the earth's core all the way out? And as you're walking, you have to like avoid falling in. And that's just the way the whole world is porous and you could fall all the way to the earth's core because it's split up like that. And it's like it's a cool idea. That's as far as it went, but you could take something really random like that and then twist it or expand it and come up with a really interesting idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people think that's how our Earth actually is. It's
You
actually
know,
porous all the way down.
that I guess at a certain level, like atoms, are more space than they are substance. So,
That's true.
at a
That's
certain level,
true.
it would be.
Because I mean, I see pictures of the Earth cut in half in textbooks. We've never
Hmm.
cut the Earth in half. We don't know what's down there. We just know it gets hot when we go down enough. So your world building. Did you have an outline when you started? Like, how do you outline? Do you like?
Yeah. So I started outlining, and I just really struggled in my first draft, and so I just said, you know what, just let the first draft suck. I just want to
Mhm,
think through the story from first chapter all the way to the end. And that really, really helped me. And then for my second drafts, I was able to make a much more in depth outline. And then as I was following that outline, giving myself freedom that if another idea came, I could pivot to that if it would improve the story. So
mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I did not have an outline when I started. I just jumped in like people talk about pantsing. I can do that. I
Hmm.
did, and I ended up with a 1,000-page bloated monstrosity that didn't go anywhere. So I had to take a step back. I chopped off a little slice. I'll focus on this
Hmm.
part. I outlined everything, and I made a structured story. So for me, my outlining, I always focused on the characters. Even my
Hmm.
world building is kind of character first. I
Hmm.
say, what is this character's problem? Oh,
Hmm.
he likes to steal things. Okay. What would be an interesting world for a thief to live in where everything is kind of built around this person being a thief? And
Hmm.
then the story plot is around him being a thief and how that he has to change or not change, or that's kind of how I approach projects. Um, so when you're working on your magic system,
Hmm.
how do you, because I haven't touched magic systems yet.
Hmm.
I'm afraid of them. They seem too complicated and too. I don't want to overwhelm anybody. So how do you walk the line between being a satisfyingly deep
Hmm.
magic system without overwhelming the reader with details?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I struggled with the magic system on Sundered Lands for the first couple drafts. I really like where I landed, and it
Hmm.
seems like a lot of readers like it too. You want it to be both unique, but also not so complex that's like, okay, I can't follow this.
Hmm.
I don't need to know any of this. And so, what I did with Sundered Lands was I wrote down, really honestly, just a list of powers at first. Like, what powers would help this character in this story, and ended up changing it a lot. So it's like you write the story, but he's never used this power. It makes no
Hmm.
sense. Or he keeps using this power, but it makes him seem weak because he never has to do anything physically strong. So we're going to take that out. And so then as I worked through the story, I figured out which ones connected the best with one, the themes of the story, and two, how the world works, and then three makes the story move forward the best. And so that was how it worked with Shadows of the Sundered Lands. And the magic system's introduced, about a quarter of the way through the book, so I don't want to go too far into spoilery details about how it works. In Symphony of Scars, it's based around music theory, and so it's a
Hmm.
much harder magic system. But I really like music. I've studied music my whole life, and so it was a little bit easier. So the thought was it starts with like middle C, the very middle notes on a piano. So if you go higher in pitch or lower than pitch than that, that will have different effects on the world. Frequency, over a certain number of beats per minute will have different impact. Major key to minor key, different impact again. Um, having a harmony added in will change things. Volume changes things, and so all I did was what makes sense for if you switch from major key to minor key, what makes sense. And so for the way I wrote it was major key would impact the physical world. So if you wanted to start a fire or something, you'd be singing in major key. Minor key would impact more like spiritual. And so if I wanted to encourage you or discourage you or whatever it was, I would sing something in a minor key. And so like the discouraging, like if you were having like warriors face off or like battle, you'd have a choir singing in the background, and certain sections of the choir will be singing major key or a minor key songs to inspire their own soldiers, and then other groups would be singing minor key songs to try to terrify the enemy soldiers. And
Interesting.
yeah, and
Do
so it
you
was just
have
exploring that.
rival armies? Like, is it chaos when their music comes together, or does it make like an interesting like symphony?
Yeah, it would be a little bit more chaotic. It'd be a little bit more chaotic because they're singing different songs, different keys, so it'd be a little
Interesting.
bit more chaotic. And then I had a lot of fun exploring. So there's two rival nations, and one of them is called it's a long name, the Holy Republic of Kellinis, and they very snooty, and I get to make fun of them, and whenever it's in another nation, like, oh, the Holy Republic, but they love like artistry and
Mm,
music. And then the other one is the Taktari Empire, and they're all about rhythm. And so they figured out how to take like certain metals and magically enhance them through rhythm specifically.
mm.
Um, yeah, so it was fun to write.
Do you have an audiobook?
There's an audiobook for Shadows of the Sundered Lands that just dropped. So
Is
thank you
is there
for.
is there music in the audiobook?
There's no music in the audiobook. I think
Mm.
we need to do music in Symphony of Scars.
Because it would be great if you have someone mentions a minor key and you hear dun.
Hmm.
You hear that in the that'd be really, that would bring your audiobook like up to another level, like
I
beyond
I
other audiobooks.
Yeah, I have my audiobook guy. I'm going to call him later today because that is an awesome idea.
I mean,
To
you'd
have
have to.
music
I mean,
play.
that's just
Yeah.
sitting there.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It honestly never occurred to me.
Because I mean, you don't even need to write that many. I don't think you don't need to write songs. It
Right,
doesn't have to be accurate. It just needs
right,
you have some kind of chord to play, some kind of piano
hmm
thing, or just to have the audio listener go, "Oh,
right,
I'm
right.
in the thing."
I love that idea. I love that idea. Yep, yep, that's a cool idea. We're doing that. We're doing that. If you listen to the audiobook and you hear it, you will know that you had that idea.
Cool, cool, cool. So, I mean, I always hate audiobooks. I
Hmm.
Whenever I listen to one, like I wish I was reading this. Because I either don't like the way they're voicing a character, or I
Hmm.
don't like the tone of this, or I would always rather be
Hmm.
listening to it. But if you had an audiobook that had that little extra thing that was unique to it,
Hmm.
like use the audio format to its strength, then you got a reason to pick up both things.
I love that. I like that. And it reminds me, I don't know if you've listened to the audiobooks for the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, but I finished Butcher's Masquerade
Okay.
a couple weeks ago. And without going into any details, there's a moment in the book where Princess Donut sings a song,
Hmm.
and not only is the narrator singing the song, but you hear guitar music playing too.
There you go. Yeah.
And for whatever reason, it's a ridiculous song, but it feels really, really emotional the way you hear it, the way he does the singing with the guitar too. So yeah, it's a great idea to elevate an audiobook.
Yeah. You're an audio. Use audio. So I have some questions here that are more geared toward people, wanting to start their first book.
Hmm.
So, what do you recommend for beginners writing their first book? Like they want to get into fantasy. What do you recommend?
Sure. For how to write their first book.
Yeah, just how to approach that. Like, what are some good first things to do?
So first off, just start writing. You're never gonna write your book if you don't start writing. And like you mentioned earlier, you start out trying to write a comedy and then it becomes a thriller, or like I was starting to write out a grimdark and it became hope punk. And you
Hmm.
you, you have to figure out, one, what you're good at, two, what you like, three, what works for the story. So start writing. I'd also say be reading a lot. Be reading a lot of different authors, not just the same guy. Read a lot of different genres.
Hmm.
um you know i- there's it's cool to see climactic endings that don't involve a big fight, and learning, big fights are cool, nothing
Hmm.
against them, but if you can learn to write a climax that would be super exciting and a page turner, and it's just a couple people having a conversation, and you can insert that type of drama into a big magical showdown at the end of your book, like that's how you get something really, really special. So be studying those other authors, um, and start getting, in a writers group. Share your stuff. Learn how you can get better. Um, Yeah, so that would be three things that I would recommend. So
Mm,
start writing right now. It's going to be bad. It's going to be cringe. That's okay. If you don't want to share it with anybody, you don't have to. Two is read a lot and read a wide variety of authors and genres. And three is find other people that are like-minded and figure out how you can learn from them and with them.
yeah. I always like to add, don't pick a big idea.
Hmm.
Like, and then it's hard to know what a big idea is when you've never done it before.
Hmm.
So what I like to say is just do 2 characters. Don't have 6 or 10 characters because you're adding a lot when you don't know it. So
It's
just
a
start
lot of
with a couple
complexity.
characters and write some short stories. You need to write the
Hmm.
end a couple of times to really get a feeling for what that
Hmm.
feels like to finish a book and to look back. We'll finish a story, look back on it, and honestly say, okay, I was good at this. I wasn't good at this. How
Right.
do I get better at this? So you need to
Right.
have that, and it's better to have that perspective on something that's very small that
Hmm.
you could
Right.
ideally fix without, a big time commitment.
Right. Right. One of the things that I've seen with people as they're going through their first draft is they'll get the first few chapters out and then they get stuck in this revision loop because they get
Mm-hmm.
new ideas and they're like, "Oh, I could have written this better," or "I've got a new idea for the ending." And I'm like, "Just keep pressing on."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Hey, break your own continuity. No one has to read this. Just figure out what's working for you." And I've had some people say like, "Well, yeah, but I don't want to write a bad book and then have to go back and write it again." And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Hey, I totally get that, and you're gonna have to get past that." It's just
Yeah.
just the way it is. Writing
I
is rewriting.
Isaac Asimov wrote an essay about a friend of his. He was talking about revisions, like how many times he wrote,
Mhm.
Foundation. And his friend was like, "Why'd you write it? Why didn't you write it right the first time?" He's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I sit down, I think about the book, and I write it out, and it's done." And this is a person he had the most respect for, loved his stuff. He's like, "You only write one draft?" He's like, "What's a draft?" And so Asimov is like, "I have gotten down to doing only 2 drafts, but I don't know how this guy can do it in one draft."
Impressive. That is
So
impressive.
there are geniuses out there, but if you're
Mhm.
listening to this and you're trying to write your first book, the chances are you're just a normal person.
Right, right.
So don't be afraid to rework things. I've literally started chapters with a little in parentheses. This character is alive now. He didn't die. Like I'll go
Yeah,
back and fix this, but he's alive right now. And I
right.
continue the story. Another thing I like to say is don't start with an idea you really care about.
Mm,
When I was working on Song of Bones, I was working on it for years and years and years. It was my passion project, and I was like, I am sick and tired of working on this book. I wanted to
mhm,
finish something. So I did The Garden Maze, which was a little tiny fantasy story, and I didn't care about it as much as the other thing. And I actually finished it in record time because I was
mhm.
like, okay, let's make this story. So it not caring about the book helps you finish the book, and it makes you good enough to write the thing you really do care about.
Right, right. Well, and then I've seen some people, who they've had an idea since they were young. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be this massive
Oh,
16 book series, and
it's better
and
than
they
Star
just
Wars.
yeah, and they describe the idea, and it's a really cool idea. They've got it all in their head. I'm like, I think writing a book is going to be a lot harder than than you realize.
Yeah.
Um, and it's again, cool ideas. Like, just save it for when you are ready for it. And
You
there was,
probably had that idea when you were 10.
yeah, right,
So write it for 10-year-olds.
right.
Sit down and think, what about this at 10 made me excited?
Hmm.
And write it at a level that 10-year-olds would love. 10-year-olds don't want a massive Lord of the Rings tome. They want a bunch of little tiny books. So
Right,
write that for your 10-year-old you.
right. And there was a coworker of mine who was talking to me about just other stuff work related. This was years and years ago, but it stuck with me, and I think it applies for books too. Where he was saying, the what got you into this industry is your taste. So you love this and what you're so if you're writing books or wanting to write a book, what made you want that is likely because you love books and you have great taste in books. And what you're going to realize is that your competency in writing a book is not as good as your taste in books.
Yes.
And you're going to sense that gap, and that's okay. It's the more you write, the more you practice, and the more you let yourself fail, but fail in the right way, your competency will catch up to your taste. And eventually you will be sitting there and say, this was the ninth iteration of this, but I'm really proud of this, and this is actually really, really good.
It's finally good.
Right,
I
right.
can't wait till I'm 60 and I can do my masterpiece.
There you go.
I can't
There you
wait.
go.
I have it locked up. This is what I write when I'm 60. I'm not ready to do it yet,
Hmm.
but when I'm 60, I'll be ready. It'll be
Hmm.
my masterpiece. Um, oh, here's a good question. How critical of your own work should you be?
While you're writing it.
Yeah, I'd say while you're writing it, after the fact, like, should you be critical at all while you're in it?
Mhm. So while I'm writing and I'm in the drafting process, I try to just turn off the critic.
Hmm.
For me, I'm paralyzed if I let that critic start speaking, and so I just have to let it be bad. Um, while I'm editing, the critic has to be turned on as loud as possible. Um, like this is a really bad scene. This is a really bad line. Cut out this entire. We have to completely redo this. This whole thing isn't working. You just have to be extremely critical then. Once the book is published and is out, feel free to continue to grow. Hey, I might have, maybe I should have done this differently. But instead of sitting there like, oh, I messed up, my book wasn't 100%. Just
Hmm.
you use that learning for the next one. Don't beat yourself
Yeah,
up. And the thing that you don't like may be somebody else's favorite part about the book too.
that's true.
Um, I've got my third book is going through beta reading, and there's two primary story arcs, and one of them I enjoyed writing more than the other, but most of the beta readers like the other one better. And I'm like, okay, I thought that was the one they were all going to hate and have critical feedback for. And outside of nitpicks here and there, they largely love that side of the story. It's the other half they want more work. And so
Hmm.
yeah, so once the story is out and published, yeah, don't beat yourself up anymore.
Very cool. Very cool. So I want to take a small break to do a little activity.
Okay.
So I saw an article talking about different iterations of the Lord of the Rings covers over time.
Okay.
And I was wondering if you could react and kind of rate the covers through history.
Okay. I like that cover a lot. Um,
This
yeah.
isn't a cover, this is an illustration. But
Okay. I was like, I don't see the words Lord of the Rings.
yeah, but here is the originals. This is what Tolkien did himself. These are original
Hmm.
hardcovers. What do
Yeah.
you think
I
of
love
these?
these. I mean, one, I'm not gonna go criticize the work of Tolkien himself. I like these though, even as a cover today. I think they're very clean.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think these are great.
I think he was a little bit lazy.
You think he's lazy?
He could have had a different thing on each one.
That's a good
Um,
point. That's a good
but
point.
I mean, they're his own illustrations, so
Hmm.
that's really cool.
Yeah, I like it.
I really love it. Um, the font is good. The color is
Hmm.
good. I mean, everything
Hmm.
is good.
I
Just
love the white background with the red
mhm.
ring text. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so pretty good cover. Pretty good
Hmm.
cover. Okay, now these were the bootlegs.
Okay.
They came to America before they were allowed to.
Hmm.
So
I yeah.
I love these. These are so weird. I love them.
See, I'm the opposite. I see these and I'm like, oh, like pull away. I know some people that love these types of covers.
Hmm.
It just doesn't do it for me. I feel like it's a little bit cluttered. There's a lot of text on it.
Hmm.
Um, and the just the artistry style is a little bit dated. Some people are gonna love that. For me, I don't. I feel I feel like these books smell bad. You know,
They
like
got a bunch of cigarette smoke.
right,
Yeah,
exactly,
these books smell like cigarettes, but they're still good. It's still Tolkien.
exactly.
I really, really like that strong color, the
Hmm.
strong red, the strong yellow, the strong blue. I love the abstract things that aren't necessarily in the book.
Mm-hmm.
That are, I mean, I love the pulpiness of these, but yes, they are very text heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Mike Mullman has showed up.
Oh, hey, Mike.
Mike, what do you think of these covers? You probably remember these covers. Now, oh, I told you to go away. You can go away now. Okay. So now these were the actual legal versions that first came out in
Okay.
America. These are the first paperbacks.
Yeah.
These are
I
insane. These are
yeah, these
actually
are
crazy.
I there's parts of them I really, really like, and there's parts of them I'm again very text heavy.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. It,
Now,
I'm not crazy about these.
I really like kind of the last two. They have that kind of fire in the sky. That's a
Uh-huh.
very, very pretty. I like that. Tolkien even had something to say about these covers.
Okay.
I think it was the very end there. Those little monsters. He said, "What's with these emus? There are no emus in the
Yes.
book. What's with the emus?"
What are they doing there?
Yeah, yeah. These are maybe he's referring to the last ones. Yeah, these are the legal ones.
Hmm.
I like the bootlegs a little bit more.
I
The
agree.
bootlegs are
These
cleaner.
I like these better than
But the official ones also have a really fun charm. They don't feel like Lord of the Rings though.
right.
But of course, I'm looking through like a lens of I've seen the movies. I saw the
Right.
movies
Right.
before I read the books. So
Right. And we've seen a lot of more modern covers too. And
yes.
so I see this and I'm like, that does not feel like my Lord of the Rings. But I want to acknowledge, had I not
Mhm.
seen the movies, and did not have such a proliferation of great covers for Lord of the Rings,
Oh yeah.
these might click with me a little bit more.
Hmm. Hmm. This is a little sacrilege to say, but in 2070, when they remake the movies,
Hmm.
I would love to see a different look to Middle
Sure.
Earth.
I
I
feel like
mean,
you have to.
yes.
Like the first movies were so iconic.
I mean, they're
It's
perfect.
inevitably going to have a remake eventually. And if anybody's mad about that, I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to watch the remake. You can watch the originals. They're
I'm
still
personally
there.
very excited for the 2070 remake of Jurassic Park. It is more
There you
book
go.
accurate.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. I feel like you have to do the aesthetic of Middle Earth differently in
Yeah.
future iterations.
I would love a weird I would love a weird Middle Earth.
Hmm.
Okay, so these were in the 80s.
Yeah, I've seen
These
that
are
version of The Hobbit. It's so weird.
it's
It's
so
so
strange.
weird.
These are little too Dungeons and Dragons
Yes.
for
Yeah.
me. I love how boring Aragon looks though at the very end there.
Yeah, just with
He
the
just looks very like a very boring man.
yeah, he looks like a priest. Like he's
He looks
about to
like
do mass or something.
he's someone you see at the supermarket who's like, "Hello,
Right.
I can't find the cereal."
The one for the Hobbit, it's like I feel like that would scare me as a kid,
Hmm.
like I would not see that.
I love chubby Bilbo.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's cool.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's having the scene with him and Gollum is a perfect scene for the cover of that book.
Yeah,
Gollum looks pretty creepy. Like it's a little small on my screen. I'm sure there's even
yeah.
more details, but yeah.
I mean, you can kind of tell
He
he
looks like a
this guy read
zombie.
The Hobbit.
Right.
He did not read the other ones. He didn't pick a specific scene for those. He just, oh, I read the first couple. Here's a Gandalf. Here's an elf and a dwarf. Here's a king, I guess. I guess he's
Right.
returning. And
Right. The one for the Hobbit I like.
yeah, yeah, that one's fun. Okay,
Mhm.
I think these are the weakest ones I've seen so far.
Mhm.
I think they're better than some of the other ones. Like the ones that are, it's not as garish.
Sure.
But I
Sure.
think it lacks some magic. I think it's not as fun to me.
Yeah.
Now these might be my favorites. My sister actually has a couple of these editions.
Mhm.
So these I think were done.
I like these. Yeah.
I think this is the 70s. But these are just gorgeous. I love the simplicity. I love
Mhm.
the art here. This is nice.
Well, and you can see each one is a scene. So you got the eagles rescuing the dwarves. I am assuming they're at the mines of Moria in
Hmm.
the Fellowship of the Ring. Two Towers looks like conversation with the Ents.
No, no,
Um,
no. This is a Frodo and Sam
oh, that's
at the
for oh
statue of the
with
king.
the headless statue. Okay, see that looks it's just a little small on my screen. But yeah,
Hmm.
now I see it that you mention it. And yeah, it's I like these. I like these. The
These are
artistry is
lovely.
pretty. Yeah, I like these.
Yeah, I think these are my favorite so far. Other than I think the bootlegs and these ones are my favorite
Hmm.
thus
Hmm.
far.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mike says the '70s covers are the best. Yeah,
there you go.
they had it. They were on something in the '70s, man. They had some good stuff. So these movie tie-ins. Now,
These are my covers. These are the covers I grew up with.
yes, I don't hate them because these are like what I saw as a kid.
Right. So exact same reaction as you. These are the covers that I had as a kid, and I like. However, I typically don't like movie covers on books. So,
No.
if I did not grow up watching these movies, I would not like these covers.
Hmm.
So it's 100%, hey, favorite movies from my childhood, covering,
That's
yeah,
like
yeah,
that's like a whole mark of value on the movies that
right,
they're so good. You love them so much, you don't mind them
right,
being on the cover of the source material that you also love.
right. Yeah, if I can choose between a movie hardcover and a normal hardcover, always pick the normal one, always pick the one with the art. But
Hmm.
yeah, because again, like you said, these are the books that I actually read. These are my Lord of the Rings that I still have. It's yeah, they doesn't bother me that much.
Yes, and they're tastefully done. They're nice.
Right, right.
Now, here are kind of the more modern. This is, I think, what's for sale right now. I really love the signature on top. The colors aren't, they're kind of the same throughout. They're just gray.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the minimalism. I just wish they had a little bit more variety in the colors.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. I think you're spot on. I love the way they did the signature at the top. Um, Yeah, I like these. The Fellowship of the Ring, I think, is probably the best one.
Hmm.
It's you got that kind of creepy vibe to it. Um, yeah, these are pretty good. I like these. They're
These are
fine.
nice.
Yeah.
Um, the title text I think could have been, I don't know.
This
If
looks like independent author stretching their budgets.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what this feels like. I would still be interested in the book from these
Hmm.
covers.
And I thought I included the crappy Amazon series tie-in covers, but I guess I forgot to.
Ah.
Um, modern covers are the best. Washed out covers are perfect.
That's one of
Yep.
the fun things about covers and art too, is it's all subjective. Someone
Oh
may
yeah.
see some of these and be like, "Oh, it doesn't work for me at all," and someone else may be like, "That's awesome. I have to buy
Hmm.
that book today."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Um, so kind of jumping back to your book.
Hmm.
Let's go to your cover here. What inspired this cover?
Yeah. So this cover was
Because you
done
have a
by
nice
Seema.
cover. I love the colors. I love the
Mhm.
subject. It's very, very fun.
Yeah. So this cover was done by Seema Love. Anybody that is looking to have a cover designed, I recommend reaching out to her. She's very easy to work with, does a great job. And so she asked for some input. And I said, yeah, this is not a spoiler. I feel like if it's cover of the book, it's a promise
Yeah.
being made to the reader, that something's going to happen to the main character's arm in this world where things are transforming into monsters. And I said that was the visual identity of the character that I wanted to put in. He's wearing this face mask too, because that's just the gear that he would be wearing as he goes through the Sundered Lands. And so then one of the things she did is she went and looked at photography of people that were doing things that were similar with red backgrounds,
Hmm.
specifically the Sundered Lands. Your vision changes, so things look like it's covered in red
Oh.
once you're in there. And so she looked at all this photography and sent photos to me, and I gave her some feedback, and then she sketched 6 different outlines that were all pretty completely different, and then said, "Hey, which ones do you like?" And this cover, I said, "I like this one because the arm is going to be front and center."
Hmm.
And makes that promise to the reader that something is going to happen to this main character's arm, and so that's how we came to this
Yeah.
cover.
I
Yeah, I
love what
love
you're
it.
saying with his posture here, because his arm
Mhm.
is in a very threatening pose,
Right,
yet
right,
his face is very apprehensive.
right.
So you kind
The
of have.
original, yeah, the original cover, his eyes were actually looking away, like he's
Hmm.
moving forward. And I was like, I think he has to be looking at the arm, like he's horrified that this is happening to him. And so she adjusted it, and so I had him that he's looking down at the arm. Oh yeah, and I should be, yeah. I'm doing a bad job of marketing my book right now. It is a semi-finalist in the SPFBO right now.
That's awesome. That's
Um,
great.
yeah, that was the first time I was like, okay, I can let myself believe this is actually good. Like,
Oh
like
yeah. Oh yeah.
your friends read it and they're like, "Oh, we love it." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you're my
Hmm.
friend." And then other authors
Yeah.
read it and they're like, "Oh, we loved it." I'm like, "Yeah, are you just wanting a good review?" And then bookstagrammers were like, "Oh, we love it." I'm like, "Yeah, but I asked you to read it." And so now it's like I finally, that side of me is finally relaxing. I'm letting myself believe it's good. But yeah, so that's the story of how we did the cover, and I love it. I think it's a great promise to the reader for what's happening. Captures in the moment how horrified he is of what's happening to his body. Yeah, so I love it.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Mike says, "Gotta represent."
That's right. That's right.
Um, I thought I saw somewhere in your social media you have a
Mhm.
way to give out signed books, right? You do signed
Yes.
copies as
So
well.
if you go to my Instagram, there's a link in my bio to a pay hip store that I call Rook's Books.
Nice.
And yeah, it's originally I was like, I got to think of a cool name, cool fantasy name, and it was the Leviathan Press. And I was like, that's
Mm,
awesome. I love this. And I was like, nobody can figure out how to spell Leviathan when searching for the store.
yeah.
And I was like, I need something that rolls off the tongues better. So Rook's Books. And
Rook's
so
books.
if you go, yeah, so if you go on Rook's Books, you can buy signed editions of the book.
Very cool. I because my sister's an illustrator.
Hmm.
Whenever someone orders a signed copy of one of my books, they get a little Norland Press
Nice.
postcard with
Hmm.
an original illustration on there,
That's
done in
cool.
ink.
That is
It's very
cool.
fun.
That is super cool. I am working on my artistry abilities. I'm still not very good. I've learned, I'm dangerous with Photoshop.
Mm.
And so I've kind of learned to use stock photos and like silhouettes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I'm really bad at drawing faces, but I can take a stock photo of a person, change it so that it's just a black silhouette, put them on a smoky background, and make something look okay that way. But
There you go. Now you're cooking.
actually, ink signature or ink artistry, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun. They're very talented. I
Hmm.
had a book signing in February.
Hmm.
It was like a book fair, and every copy I was going to give out one of these little postcards with it, and I
Hmm.
was doing all these drawings myself. Oh, these are good. These are nice. And like my sister's like, oh, mine are done. She puts it on like, oh my gosh, these are amazing. So I made sure to give out as much of hers as I
Hmm.
could before they got to my little crappy
There you
drawings.
there you go.
But yeah, I mean, I love every aspect of the indie writing scene. I
Hmm.
love outlining the book. I love writing the book. I love the illustration part. I love the marketing part.
Hmm.
I love connecting with other authors and hearing how they made their journey as well. It's so much fun.
Right.
There's like,
I yeah, and there's some really, really good books out there. So why read indie? So there's two reasons. So one, if you don't read indie, you're overlooking some excellent, excellent books that are
yes,
out there. And two, a lot of indie books break from the formula that you'll find in trad published books. Nothing,
mhm,
nothing against trad published books, but
yeah,
if you're just looking for something that just feels a little bit more unique in its DNA, um, indie is going to be a very easy place to find that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. What's weird is before I wrote my book, I was like, okay, if you're independent, it just means your book wasn't good enough to get published. And
Mhm.
then I started querying my novel and was getting all the canned responses, and I was like, what is going on? Like, there's nothing. And finally somebody gave me a personalized response, and he said, that this is a business case that we're making. We're not trying to say if our book is good or not. We're making a business case for why our book will sell, and that's what they're looking for. And it makes sense. They're
Yeah.
a business. They're not doing anything. We people will try to demonize them for that. I'm like, no, they're just trying to buy groceries too, and so they're trying to pick things that they know will sell, and
Mhm.
like that's it. And like I got a second personalized rejection one time, and they're like, hey, this book is awesome. What we read is great. Like, and based off of current market trends, which is more for erotic romantasy stories, we don't actually think this is going to sell super well, so we're going to pass.
Yeah.
And I was like, haha, not my story, um, and that's just what I've learned. And as I've talked with people that are in the industry and have traditionally published or worked for publishers, that's what they've echoed too.
Mhm.
Is yeah, that it's just, they can afford to be that picky. So yeah, read indie books. You're gonna find some really really unique stuff that's out there that breaks from a lot of the formulas. You may not even realize that you're reading formulaic stories, and you'll just find something that's super super unique, and it might click with you.
Yeah. So you mentioned in your we might be going over time a
Mhm.
little bit here, but I want to ask this kind of this final thing. Um, you mentioned on your site that you focus on clean fantasy.
Yes.
So I love that. I also do just clean
Hmm.
stuff. I'm not focusing on, my I write for adults, but they're not like
Hmm.
it's not, erotica or whatever that is.
Right, right.
So what is your approach to doing heavy things without
Hmm.
and keeping it what's your approach? What's your thought process?
Yeah, so for starter, there's some ways that are easy, like cursing.
Mhm.
It's a fantasy world. Just you can make in-world curses. Like that's easy workaround to clean up a book is just use in-world I actually get frustrated when I'm reading a fantasy book and it uses real
Yeah.
English curse
The
words. I'm
F-bomb
like, come
takes me
on.
out.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, like you came up with a different in-world word for juice, but you're gonna okay, whatever. So that's easy. And then second, the stories that I've written so far have not necessitated any like bedroom intimacy or anything like that. And so just it was very easy to avoid that as a topic. The first book, Shadows of the Sundered Lands, romance. There's some flirtation, but romance is not really. They're fighting for their lives all the time.
Yeah.
And so that's just not top of mind. Symphony of Scars. There's some romance there too, but most of it is pretty innocent. Like crushes or early dating sort of vibes. Um, yeah, so that's the angle that I play is just as I write the story. um it, if a story I was writing necessitated some sort of intimacy to happen, you can just do kind of a cutaway thing.
Yeah.
It's not something that I enjoy reading in culture, not something I enjoy watching if I'm watching it on movies or TV. And so I get it that there's going to be some stories where it's like, oh, these two characters have to hook up for the story to continue. Like that's fine. I'll just skip that scene.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
we get it. We know what
Right.
happened.
Right. Yeah, and then the third part's violence. For Shadows, almost all of the violence is not human on human. It's like human on these
Mm.
monsters that used to be human and transformed into monster. And so I felt like I could get away with a little bit more violence because this isn't human on human.
Yeah.
Symphony of Scars is completely human on human. And so it's a little bit more violent, but I just tried not to be excessive.
Yeah.
um, the reader's smart enough to know if somebody died. You don't have to describe insides becoming outsides and things like that. They understand.
Yeah.
It can still have very adult thematic elements and be a very adult story without including something that I don't know, which give people bad dreams.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I often, especially with Song of Bones, it's all animal characters,
Hmm.
so they have animalistic tendencies because they're animals. Those are one of my notes in the beginning when I started writing. Like, remember, they're animals; they're not people.
Right.
So, one of the first things that I asked people when they first read it, like, could you tell they were animals? Did you ever think they were people? Like, no, I could smell
Hmm.
them. They were animals. Like, oh, great.
Hmm.
So, I often have to. The first draft is always much more violent than I anticipated.
Sure,
So I
sure.
always have to tone things back. And I found that the key thing that I changed that makes it, you know, not as graphic is just verbs.
Hmm.
I need to use verbs that aren't quite as juicy or
Right,
verbs that aren't quite as visceral and
right.
changing a thing here and there. There was one description I was very proud of that I couldn't use, but maybe someday I'll put it in something more age appropriate. But
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
violence.
For the violence, I basically just write for my wife. And, she likes, mainstream fantasy stories, like Brandon Sanderson, Michael J. Sullivan, and so I know kind of her level of violence that she enjoys and tolerates, and I just try to keep it in that
Mhm.
range. And it's pretty consistent with a lot of adult fantasy stuff out there.
Cool. It
Yeah.
sounds like you have a pretty good system.
Hmm.
When Bill Watterson was doing Calvin and Hobbes, his only audience he cared about was his wife. So he,
Right.
would- he would do a comic, he'd give it to her, like, "Is that funny?" And if he heard her laugh, like, "Oh, that one stays in."
Hmm. It's, I think it's really good if you can get that. More than really good. Like
Oh
that's the
yeah,
dream. If you have one person that if you can impress them, it's good. And my wife is a much better reader than I am, much faster reader, and she knows her stuff too. Having a marriage relationship, she can criticize whatever I put in
oh
front of
yeah,
her, and she knows I'm not going to take it personal. And yeah, so she's the best beta reader I could have.
excellent.
Yeah.
Well, what do you want to end with here? Tell people where to find your book. Tell people where to find you. What are the details?
Yes. So Shadows of the Sundered Land, which is an SPFBL semi-finalist right now. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on almost all audiobook streaming platforms. It's on Audible and Spotify, Amazon right now. It's going to be on Apple Books here really, really soon too. Got the ebook available. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok. You can sign up for my newsletter, Corbin Rook Author at Word or Corbin Rook Author .wordpress.com. I gotta upgrade that to the paid subscription to get the WordPress part out, but I just have slacked on that.
Yeah,
But yeah, and if you haven't read Shadows of the Sunderlands, just I would love for you to give it a shot. It's free on Kindle Unlimited, and you can get the signed copies from my online store, Rook's Books. Yeah, I'd love for you to give it a shot, especially if you're looking for a story that has very hopeful themes in a dark world.
excellent. Thank you for coming on. You've been an excellent guest. Everyone,